Připravte se, inspirace na dosah ruky přichází. V našem podcastu INION Talk zpovídáme inspirativní osobnosti z oblasti podnikání a biznisu v Karlovarském kraji. Dobrý den, ahoj, vítám vás u dalšího dílu našeho videopodcastu INION Talk, který natáčíme se zajímavými osobnostmi z oblasti podnikání a biznisu. Tento díl je speciální, proto přeskočím do angličtiny, protože tu máme naše norské partnery. Let's do it. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Yngve Dahle, Erlend Bang Abelsen from Entreprenerdy, our partners from Norwegian Kingdom. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you?
We are good. It's a pleasure to be here in Karlovy.
It has been 4 days, full of meetings, meeting people. Are you exhausted as well?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but we are. It's been good. It's been really good meeting a lot of interesting people, hearing about how you do things here.
Totally worth it.
Yep.
Thank you. We collaborate together on this program called OVACE, focusing on entrepreneurs from cultural and creative industries. And for that, we are using your methodology and EMS, the system, the digital tool. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how did you become Entreprenerdy? How all this happened? Where is the beginning?
The beginning goes actually back to the middle of the 1990s, but that's a little bit too long story.
No, we started. We've been working together for 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been developing in these 22 years together with other people, but mostly together, different companies. So we've been involved in 8 different companies. And all of them have been sold. 12 years ago, we started this company called Entreprenerdy. And the idea of that was to build systems and technology to help the success of entrepreneurs, and in particular cultural and creative entrepreneurs.
Even more also to enable both the entrepreneurs and the ecosystem surrounding them to make them succeed in the way they themselves want to. So what happened was that we were actually invited by a industry organization in our hometown, Bergen, or my hometown. It was your hometown at that time. Yeah. And that triggered a business boot camp, which became the foundation for a program that has been running now for 12 years with over 1,600 participants in a number of countries, 7 countries. Mm-hmm.
And one of them is also Czech Republic.
Yes,
absolutely.
A very important one.
Yes. That's an important one. That came into being after you found us and got us to be your partners for the program. Yep.
I'm glad that this has happened, but I leave the answer to you. How do you make it happen, that you enable entrepreneurs to do what they want to do?
Like Yngve mentioned, we've been developing a systematic yet simple and practical approach based on science, scientific method. And we have, during this period, working with all of these entrepreneurs, we have created a program which builds on group-based learning, which lets the entrepreneur themselves participate in taking their cases step by step from the idea level, from their own motivation into a business plan for their project.
Yeah, and there is, of course, a technology there, and there is some teaching methods and things like that. But the core of it is really to make these people meet each other and help each other as good as they can. Being an entrepreneur, cultural and creative entrepreneurs very rarely look upon themselves as entrepreneurs. What basically happens is that they they have a skill set which isn't really easy to, where it is not really easy to find a regular job. You can't just go and get hired as a bass player or as a painter or as an actor. So what they do is that they become kind of reluctantly self-employed, and then that becomes very lonely. And what OVACE has sort of done is to, over time, build a community of these self-employed people who wants to live from the art. They're either making themselves, or they perhaps want to help or contribute to someone else's art becoming a viable business. They want to be sustainable. They want to create something good for the environment around them. They're very often driven by their own internal creativity, and then they want to pay their bills. And this is and then a few of them want to sort of create a business with employees, and where they want to sort of perhaps have a chance to make big money on it. But that's very few. And what we're trying to do is to make this a little bit easier. That's all, really.
Yeah, I think that's all. And I think it's also bridging that creativity and that desire to create their art, and showing them that they can actually keep the integrity of that, keep their own being themselves, and still being able to find a way of financing this, such that they can live out of it and pay their bills.
Yeah.
Right.
Lot of cases already. You mentioned it was more than 1,600 cases, many countries. What are already visible benefits or successes you've seen by running these cohorts programs?
What's most motivating is the individual stories, right? Out of these 1,600, there are very many who are really, really cool.
Even us,
projects.
we have already many nice stories and successful.
And we have met some of them here during our visit.
Absolutely,
it was really cool.
Yeah. And then there are some more statistical knowledge about it. So we've typically, to take the Norwegian part of it, in Norway, the average revenue or income of an independent art entrepreneur is about 37,000 euros a year. The ones that have gone through our program, the average is 67,000 euros a year. So that's one thing. The people who are going through our programs are making better revenue than the ones who are not. That's not necessarily a causal explanation. It's not necessarily anyone who go through our programs double their revenue. It might also be because some people, the people that are actually willing to make that investment, has a better opportunity in the first place to succeed. We've had a survival rate of more than 70% of the people who've gone through our programs.
Huge for programs.
It is a very significant number. And then people ask, why is this? And you have to remember the OVACE program is a very structured process. You go through the step-by-step of your business. It's a little bit like going to the gym. And if you go to the gym 3 times a week for 3 years, nobody will be surprised if you're fitter or stronger. And it is a little bit like this here also. If you're willing to work systematically with your project, there is a chance you will succeed. And remember, succeeding isn't necessarily making money, even if that's sort of easiest to measure. Succeeding might be to have a positive impact on your surroundings. It might be just an emotional feeling of making something fantastic. Every entrepreneur, every artistic entrepreneur decides themselves what their objectives are and what it means to be successful. So that's a little bit of it. Is it more?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more. We know we are happy to have you as partners on this because the facilitators have an important role. You mentioned going to the gym. The facilitators are a little bit like the personal trainers who can show you the way. You can do the work for the people going to the gym. You can do the job for the entrepreneurs, but you can show them a way on how to do it, right? Yeah. And also creating these groups, creating the environment for these groups of entrepreneurs who can support each other. Because like you are saying, it's not only about going there and doing the work of yourselves. You can do it together with others and with the support and inspiration of others, which I think is also a big part in this high survival rate. Because what we see is that being an entrepreneur is about trying, and then sometimes you fail. You have to be willing to do that. But most entrepreneurs doesn't fail as such, because every time they fail, they learn something. But some give up because it's a bit, it can be heavy at times.
They're not willing to fail a few times. Yeah. So that's basically a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Another thing, if you talk about what is success and how does it feel, and a very important part of what I would consider our success is exactly the building of these networks, these societies, the fact that we can come here to the Czech Republic and meet you and meet all of the entrepreneurs and your people. We can go to Germany, do the same, South Africa, Sweden, Denmark. And it's sort of around the method and the technology, which is just things, right? There is a lot of people who actually know how to use these tools. That is the real cool. That is the real cool part. Yeah.
Yeah, the situation where we found ourselves 3 years ago when we met you for the first time, it was that we were searching for such a system, such a method that we could use for helping entrepreneurs to do what they want to do. And I found it awesome that we didn't have to invent the wheel by ourselves and do a lot of mistakes, that we can rely on your working systems, methods, and also on your experience. And this is something unique, and I think that saved us a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of everything, and it's great. We always come to you to get feedback on how to improve even more. So what are some key findings on how to do those programs for entrepreneurs from culture and creative industries?
First of all, I want to say that, there was when we started working together, there was a method, and yes, of course, you are coming to us and asking for advice and these things, but remember that you also input into it. So all of your experiences and input goes into the method and the systems and makes it better, not only for you, but for all of the others also. And this is sort of the logic of collaboration. The fact that artistic entrepreneurs here in Czech Republic might be a little bit different than the one in Scandinavia, for instance. We can learn about that and adapt the system and put that into based on your learnings. So to your question, what is the success factors of running a program for
or key findings? On how we should do this.
Yes. There's a couple of things which we have learned from these 12 years of working, and having a continuous access to these kind of programs is important. It gives the entrepreneurs an opportunity to actually be aware that such an offering exists. So it helps with recruiting proper people. If you are recruiting enough people to apply for this program, there's also the ability to have a little bit of competition about the spots, the seats in this. So that continuity is important.
Also, the learning, right? If you're running it, first of all, if you are an entrepreneur and you go to a one-day event, which quite a lot of these programs are, that won't really help. You need longitudinal access to learning. You need longitudinal access to the network, to the society. It takes months and years to sort of develop this. And if you just run a 3-week program or a 1-week program or a 1-day program, and then you stop and you never hear from these entrepreneurs again, that won't really work. Also, doing these programs over and over again makes them a little bit better every time. We learn. It becomes a little bit more efficient, a little bit better all the time. So that's one thing, as you say, that going from events and one-offs to a continuous ecosystem. That's really important.
It does create bigger and stronger networks also by having this being done over time. And you can get into the situation where you can have alumni members, right? People who was here in a previous version can actually come in and be inspiring. They can share their experiences with this. Maybe even some of them, from time to time, we see that people find together and do new projects with other members. And that is something you wouldn't have either if you were just doing it for a short defined time in a project, right? So working with this and having it also as this continuous network and community.
Another important thing is that if you're going to run a program for artistic entrepreneurs, you have to, first of all, you have to respect their motivation. A lot of sort of these programs are typically trying to make business people out of artists. They sort of take for granted that the motivation for being an entrepreneur must be that you want to be rich. That is not very often the case for any entrepreneur, really, but particularly not for entrepreneurs in this industry. There is a lot more often a philanthropical motivation or a motivation that people just want to create something. Or also sometimes people don't want to build big companies. They want to build a small company for themselves and be independent and have a good life. And if you don't respect that from the starting point, then you're trying to take people to a place where they don't want to be. Another thing is building on the typical economical approach is that you want to try to force a market orientation over people's head. I want to say that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to start by finding a market, and then you need to adapt your offering to that market. You have to create art that the market wants. We don't believe in that at all, and I think that's sort of where most of these programs have failed miserably. We ran out from a resource-based philosophy, saying that what you do is that you start with what you have. You start with your art, you start with your talents, your motivation, your drive, and then you go out and you try to find some customers that want that. But that's a totally different approach from going the other way around. So that's a huge finding, I think.
I think it's a huge finding, and it gives most of the artists and creative entrepreneurs I've met, it gives them a little bit of inner peace and makes it easier for them to say, okay, I can do this. Now it actually makes sense to me also to look at how can I get my project and activities financed? Because that's what I want to do.
That was a brilliant example this morning on the innovation platform, where you had presentation about what you do in front of key players from regional support for CCI. And there were these guys from Norway who went through your program and who just want to tell stories through their films, through their documentaries. But thanks to the program, they found their way how to tell the stories, but even make it sustainably. And this was just what you said, but shown by example.
Yeah, and I think a quite typical example also what Yngve was mentioning earlier about this, getting the time to try to test and try and learn and find the way without losing the motivation to continue. which is, and I agree. I think they were onto a sustainable business model.
That's great. Based on this, what are the future plans?
I want to say we really are going to develop this, and it's based on a few facts. Cultural and creative industries are about 6.1% of global gross national product. Is a revenue of about $2 trillion, creating about 50,000 jobs. And the most interesting part is those jobs are they're about 50-50, so they're gender neutral. Half of those jobs are for women, and they're mainly in the age group between 15 and 29. We're working in many countries, quite a lot in developing countries, where youth employment are in the 80s and 90s%, right? So the creative and the cultural industries aren't just important for the artists or for the buyers of art. It's super important for the community and the society, right? So we are definitely going to continue working on this. We are going to continue spreading the message, building it around, continue to find financiers for this.
Program is ongoing on the 12th year in Scandinavia. We are working with partners to bring it to more countries in Europe. Think it's one of the countries we are looking forward to continue working is here in the Czech Republic. What we also think is important is that one thing is the entrepreneurs, and then you have the supporters of entrepreneurs like INION. It's also important, which are important here, but it's also important to integrate other businesses and the society, like Yngve was mentioning, the governmental sector, whether it's the state or region or municipalities. And it's, for us, having all these parties engage in creating something that's actually systematic over time, where you don't pull the plug after some project period and you continue doing this is an important way to be able to create impact based on this.
It's true. In the markets we are, I think it's important that these programs are starting regularly. Perhaps once every week or once every fortnight or once every month, there is a new program starting. So if you hear about this and you couldn't do it next Monday or whenever it was, you can always apply for something later on. And it started build. So that's the experience. When you do it systematically like that, it builds over time. You get more applicants, you get better applicants, you get better sort of communication and collaboration in the cohorts. We learn from it and we develop it further on, and it just becomes better and better. As we said, in Scandinavia, we've done it for 12 years now. And we're currently running programs at least once a month.
Well, what's a little bit interesting, which is part of the characteristic of Norway, is it's a huge country with few people in. So we have several areas with the smaller municipalities, etc. And there's a benefit of being able to do this online, because you can join people from all over the country.
From disconnected regions.
Yes, from collected regions, right? That doesn't take away from it being nice to meet people and network and do that. But we've actually seen that it's easier for people and give some benefits for learning, that you meet online, you have shorter, more compressed sessions, and you give people the ability to think and mature their ideas. So we think that having parts of this as online, collecting from multiple regions
And this doesn't only go within the countries, right? Can you imagine a situation where you have a cohort where 12 people works together for a month, and there is a DJ from Tokyo together with a drummer from Los Angeles and a bass player from Prague, right? And then perhaps some other helpers around, and you suddenly can start learning from people from different cultures and different areas. it's very cool.
Now
Then
we're
the time-
starting to talk about what we are really dreaming of achieving, right?
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
That would be super cool. I think we can make it someday. Time zones will be tricky.
People have to get up in the morning.
Actually, not if people are motivated enough. I had a whole team in a program where they were joining from completely. They were up at 2:30 in the morning to attend, so they were really motivated. But yeah, generally speaking, it's nice to be in the same.
So this is not an issue.
No,
We've experienced that it works,
Yeah.
but of course, if you have enough programs, you can keep people within
Yep.
the same time zones. Yeah.
You are here thanks to our project focused on bilateral cooperation. So we met few people here from region, politicians, key players in the entrepreneurial support, entrepreneurs itself. What is your experience, or what is your impression on this last 4-5 days you've been here? What are you thinking?
Maybe
of?
a main impression is that there are a lot of similarities with what we experience in over there. Some of the challenges which goes on getting this to. It has a little bit to do with the funding of programs. It has to do with getting the continuity of it. Still, there's been giving quite strong signals of support for actually making something happening here, right? From the people we have met.
And I think that I've been very impressed about people, both their knowledge and their general, motivation to try to improve things. So you got good people here. It's no surprise really, but
Thank you.
Well, also we've been learning about there's a long history of cultural and creative industry. We've learned about the glass industry, the porcelain industry. There's a lot of things to build on in this region, which can be further strengthened and can create opportunities for new entrepreneurs as well.
And as we see that different verticals sort of play on each other's strengths and support each other. I mean, tourism is super depending on an active and cool cultural life. Agriculture, tourism, and culture is sort of playing together.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected, and it's all sort of thrives on each other. And if you start to get a positive development somewhere, it very often will have a ripple effects on other areas. So that's really cool.
Synergy somewhere else too. Yeah.
I must say, it was kind of cool to be in that Villa Becher, if I pronounce it correctly. Very nice house with fantastic art inside, and the coolest guy recording us on some of that. It was a nice mix of a little bit older architecture and newer,
Yeah.
right?
By the way, participant of program OVACE.
Yeah.
And also a bit of a problem is going to be very expensive, right? Because when you meet these different artists, you have to start buying their art. Because it's so incredibly cool. So I think that if the person who I refer to hear this, I think I will recognize it. So and send me a good offer.
And if not, we will definitely deliver the message.
Yeah, but we've been really impressed with some of the things we have seen.
Super cool.
That's super cool. It was great to have you here, guys. I hope for not last time.
No.
We definitely need to also switch the roles, that we might come someday to Norway. And thank you for everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We are looking forward to it. You absolutely have to come.
Definitely. And thank you for having us here. That's been a great pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.